What's in store for the fall legislative agenda? I'm Jill Horner. This is Comcast Newsmakers. With me this hour is Pennsylvania State Representative Todd Stephens. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
There's a lot in store for this legislative agenda, but let's talk about some of the big items. And one is the potential privatization of state stores. Only 2 states really have state liquor stores. Let's talk a little bit about where Pennsylvania stands with this idea. It was a proposal in the spring, but where does it stand for the fall?
Well, our majority leader in the House, Representative Mike Turzai, has authored a bill and is proposing to sell the state liquor stores. And we've heard over and over again, the rank and file members at least, that this is going to be one of the priorities here in the fall, and we're going to be taking a closer look at it, that's for sure.
Now, when you take a closer look at it, there's the balance between the annual revenue that these stores bring in balanced against this one-time sale of these stores. Where do you come down on this? What are some of the things that you'll be looking at as this issue moves forward?
Frankly, I really need to see the numbers, and that's what it comes down to for me. You know, do I agree philosophically? I'd like to see, you know, government out of the liquor business. Yes. The question is, can we afford to do that right now? I mean, the Commonwealth is going through some pretty difficult financial times, and I don't know that right now we can afford to do it. So I really want to take a close look at the numbers and ensure that this is something that we can afford to do right now.
And that's just one of the issues that you'll be addressing. Let's talk a little bit about schools, school choice, school vouchers. This is another big issue. Again, it came up in the spring. It's something that will be addressed again this fall.
Sure, and there were so many proposals during the spring, and it was really a moving target. So I do understand that there's been continual discussions over the summer between some of the interested parties, and that they may have arrived at some sort of a proposal for us to consider in the fall. From my standpoint, you know, I start with the premise that I think every child deserves a quality education, and you know, shouldn't be sentenced to a poor education by virtue of being born into the wrong zip code. That being said, I have great public schools in my district. You know, the North Penn, Hatboro, Horsham, Upper Dublin, Wissahickon, and Abington school districts are all, you know, fantastic. And whatever we do to help those failing schools and help those students really in those failing schools can't adversely affect the public schools that are doing a good job. And that's my biggest concern. You know, let's make sure that we help those kids in the failing districts, but make sure we don't adversely affect the kids in the succeeding public schools.
And let's talk about Marcellus Shale and where the idea stands of a potential implementation of a tax or a fee on the extraction of natural gas. Again, an idea that was talked about in the spring and even before that in the Commonwealth. Is this something that's going to be on the legislative agenda? And if so, will there potentially be movement on this idea?
It seems as though as recently as yesterday, the governor has now agreed that there will be some type of a fee in the legislation he proposes this fall. And I think that's good news. Now the big question remains, where will that revenue go? Is it going to be used for environmental programs? Is it going to be used for local impact in those communities? You know, where's the money going? I think that's going to be the big battle you'll see in the legislature this fall, is where's the money going to be used?
And by breaking down where that money actually goes, does that impact local communities more, or will you be focusing more on things that happen back here in your own communities? Because the natural gas extraction isn't necessarily happening here, but there could be potential environmental impacts back here in your local district.
I think that's what's important to realize, you know, and we just saw it, unfortunately. I mean, all water flows downhill, and so when you have questions about water quality and the way environmentally this drilling is occurring, I think we need to look at environmental regulations so that we are protected down here in the southeast. Understanding we don't have the wells to be drilled, but we may suffer some of the environmental consequences down the road. Another place to look, though, is the infrastructure and the road improvements that need to be made. And should that be, you know, should the focus be on the local level, or should the focus be more globally? Frankly, we pay a lot of taxes down here in southeastern Pennsylvania, and they go into the statewide kitty for road projects and everything else like that. So, you know, this notion of parochialism starting now is something we'll take a close look at.
Thanks so much.
Sure thing.
We've been talking with Pennsylvania State Representative Todd Stephens. I'm Jill Horner for Comcast Newsmakers.